Good evening. Welcome to the 10th anniversary competition of Poetry Out Loud and Reading High's 9th year of participation. I am Janet King. Many years ago, when the world was young and dinosaurs walked the earth, I was in 10th grade. Miss Burine was my English teacher, a formidable woman who cared not at all for modern educational methods, political correctness, or student self-esteem. She was as mean as a snake. She was a fervent believer in memorization. As a result, I know an enormous number of grammar rules, several poems, and vast quantities of Julius Caesar, which I will still recite at the slightest provocation. The emotional scars of that class faded quickly, but the literature did not. Fast forward to the fall of 2006. I was browsing on my computer, looking through the internet to see if I could find something that might enliven my English class, when I stumbled upon the website for Poetry Out Loud. It was a year-old competition, a national poetry recitation competition, in which students had to memorize and recite from a list of selected, well-known poems. This is perfect, I thought. It will make my class more interesting. It has the National Council of Teachers of English stamp of approval. It reinforces something I already believe, and it gives a chance to my friends and me to develop a project which we could use for the staff development du jour. We plunged right in. Today, Reading High is a Poetry Out Loud phenomenon. Our in-house competition is more difficult to win than the competitions in several states. Our staff of English teachers has become very expert at coaching our students, and Susan Wagner has improved our coaching to a professional level. Our community, as well as our school, supports our reciters. We have over 300 students every year participating in the program. Indeed, we have become a poetry powerhouse. But despite the achievements of our very best reciters, I believe that the real accomplishment of Poetry Out Loud is the more than 3,000 students who have learned at least one poem, have committed it to memory. They will not forget. They have the experience of one piece of art that they will carry with them in their deep heart's core. So, to quote Edgar Lee Masters, Mrs. George Reese, to this generation, I would say, memorize some bit of verse of truth or beauty. It may do you a turn in life. Now, our program tonight consists of two parts. In part one, each competitor will recite one poem. Judging is based on physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness, level of complexity, evidence of understanding, and overall performance. Then, during an intermission, which will be filled with highlights from some of our past competitions, the scores will be tallied, and the top 10 finishers will compete with their second poem in the second round. Both poems, however, count toward the total final score. At the end of the competition, The winner and runner-up will be announced. I would like to extend a word of thanks to our judges tonight. Jill Sheets, who is a poet and newspaper reporter. Heather Thomas, a past poet laureate of Berks County. John Ganser, who is a stage director for various professional, amateur, local performances. Also, Paige Seckler, chair of the Reading High English Department, is the accuracy judge. Susan Wagner is our prompter. Lori McGovern is tallying the scores. She's in the math department, so those of you who think English teachers are mathematically challenged do not need to worry. Kyle Brown and the Nightlife crew are taping this event for a further presentation. And then we have special thanks to Susan Wagner, Jerry Correnda, who's unable to be here tonight, Thomas Hughes, Angela Rodriguez, Glynis Smith, the English departments at Reading High and at the Citadel, and our National Honor Society greeters. And now I'd like to remind you that this is a live performance. These young people are already terrified. Please do not whisper, talk, or even move very much during the performances. If you must leave the auditorium, do so in between performances. Make sure your cell phones are off. Not vibrate, off. Do not consult them at all during the program. You can see it from the stage. It's amazingly distracting. Also, please be very careful about photography. Flash photography would distract our students and might interfere with their reciting. We want to give each participant an equal chance to do his or her very best. Again, this is a very exciting time. I hope you enjoy our competition. We certainly enjoy preparing for it, and we are delighted to present it to you. And now, we're going to begin. Our first contestant tonight is 10th grader Isaac Colick.
Evolution of My Block by Jacob Sains. As a boy, I bicycled the block with a brown mop top falling into a tail bleached blonde, gold-like under golden light, like the colors of noble knights banging on corners, unconcerned with the colors I bore. A shorty too small to war with, too brown to be down for the block. White knights became brown kings, still showing black and gold on corners now crowned. The block a branch branded with La Corona graffitied on the garage doors by the pawns. As a teen, I could have beamed the crown, walked in without the beat-down custom, warred with my cousin who claimed 2-6 to set down the next block decked in black and beige. But I preferred games to gangs. Books to crooks wearing hats crooked to the left or right, fighting for a plot, a block to spot and mark with blood of boys who knew no better way to grow up than throw up the crown and be down for whatever.
Next, Stephanie Sanchez, who is in 9th grade.
Make a law so that the spine remembers wings by Larry Levis. So that the truant boy may go steady with the state. so that in his spine a memory of wings will make his shoulders tense and bend, like a thing already flown when the bracelets of another school of love are fastened to his wrist. Make a law that doesn't have to wait long until someone comes along to break it. So that in jail he will have time to read how the king was beheaded, and the hawk that rode the king's wrist died of a common cold, and learn that chivalry persists, and what first felt like an insult to the flesh was the blank O of love. Put the fun back into punishment. Make a law that loves the one who breaks it. So that no empty court will make a judge recall ice fishing on some overcast bay. It ought to be an interesting law, the kind of thing no one can obey. A law that whispers, break me. Let the crows roost and call. A good judge is an example to us all. So that the patrolman can still whistle the yellow rose of Texas through his teeth, and even show some faint gesture of respect while he cuffs the suspect, not ungently, and says things like, okay, that's it, relax. It'll go better for you if you don't resist. Lean back just a little against me.
Next, 12th grader Freddie Ramirez.
Novel by Arthur Rimbaud. We're not serious when we're 17. One fine evening, to hell with beer and lemonade, noisy cafes with their shining lamps. We walk under the green linden trees of the park. The lindens smell good in the good June evenings. At times, the air is so scented that we close our eyes. The wind, laden with sounds, the town isn't far, has the smell of grapevines and beer. There, you can see a very small patch of dark blue, framed by a little branch pinned up by a naughty star that melts in gentle quivers, small and very white. Night in June, 17 years old, we are overcome by it all. The sap is champagne and goes to our head. We talked a lot and feel a kiss on our lips, trembling there like a small insect. Our wild heart moves through novels like Robinson Crusoe, when, in the light of a pale street lamp, a girl goes by, attractive and charming, under the shadow of her father's terrible collar. And as she finds you incredibly naive, while clicking her little boots, she turns abruptly and in a lively way. Then cavatinas die on your lips. You are in love, occupied until the month of August. You are in love, your sonnets make her laugh. All your friends go off. You're ridiculous. Then one evening, the girl you worship deigned to write to you. That evening, you return to the bright cafes. You ask for beer or lemonade. We're not serious when we are 17, or when we have green linden trees in the park.
Ninth grader Jonathan Garcia is next.
Dawn's Ruse by William Carlos Williams. If I, when my wife is sleeping, and the baby and Kathleen are sleeping, and the sun is a flame white disk in silken mist above shining trees, if I, in my north room, dance naked, grotesquely before my mirror, waving my shirt round my head, and singing softly to myself, I am lonely, lonely. I was born to be lonely. I am best so. If I admire my arms, my face, my shoulders, flanks, buttocks against the yellow drawn shades, who shall say I am not the happy genius of my household?
Karen Munoz, 10th grader, is our next performer.
Sugar Dada by J. Allen Rosser. Go home. It's never what you think it is. The kiss, the diamond, the slam dance pulse in the wrist. Nothing is true, my dear. Not even this rumor of passion you'll doubtless insist on perceiving in my glance. Please, just go. Home is never what you think it is. Meaning lies in meaning's absence. The mist is always almost just about to lift. Nothing is truer, dear. Not even this candle can explain its searing twist of flame mounted on cool amethyst. Go on home, not where you think it is, but where you would expect its comfort least. In still black stars our century will miss seeing. Nothingness is not as true as this faith we grind up with denial. Grist to the midnight mill, morning's catalyst. Come, let's go home, wherever you think it is. Nothing is true, my dear, not even this.
Eric Estacio, 9th grader, is our next performer.
Numbers by Mary Cornish. I like the generosity of numbers. The way, for example, they are willing to count anything or anyone. 2 pickles, one door to the room. 8 dancers dressed as swans. I like the domesticity of addition. Add 2 cups of milk and stir. The sense of plenty. 6 plums on the ground, 3 more falling from the tree. And multiplication school of fish times fish, whose silver bodies breathe beneath the shadow of a boat. Even subtraction is never lost, just addition somewhere else. 5 sparrows, take away 2, the 2 in someone else's garden now. There's an amplitude to long division as it opens Chinese takeout box by paper box. Inside every folded cookie, a new fortune. And I never fail to be surprised by the gift of an odd remainder. Footloose at the end. 47 divided by 11 equals 4, with 3 remained. 3 boys beyond their mother's call. 2 Italians off to sea. 1 sock that isn't anywhere to look.
Twelfth grader Jimmy Ortiz is our next performer.
The True Blue American by Delmore Schwartz. Jeremiah Dixon was a true blue American, for he was a little boy who understood America, for he felt that he must think about everything, because that's all there is to think about. Knowing immediately the intimacy of truth and comedy, knowing intuitively how a sense of humor was a necessity for one and for all who live in America. Thus natively, and naturally, when on an April Sunday in an ice cream parlor, Jeremiah was requested to choose between a chocolate sundae and a banana split, he answered unhesitatingly, having no need to think of it, being a true blue American, determined to continue as he began, rejecting the either-or of Kierkegaard and many another European, refusing to accept alternatives, refusing to believe the choice of between, rejecting selection, denying dilemma, electing absolute affirmation, knowing in his breast the infinite and the gold of the endless frontier, the deathless West. Both. I will have them both, declared this true blue American in Cambridge, Massachusetts on an April Sunday, instructed by the great department stores, by the 5 and 10, taught by Christmas, by the circus, by the vulgarity and grandeur of Niagara Falls and the Grand Canyon, tutored by the grandeur, vulgarity, and infinite appetite, gratified and shining in the darkness of the light on Saturdays at the double bills of the Moon Pictures, the consummation of advertisement of the imagination of the light, which is as it was, the infinite belief in infinite hope of Columbus, Barnum, Edison, and Jeremiah Dixon.
Our next reciter is Janeth Paredes, 9th grade.
San Juan Papalotes by Brenda Cardenas, in memory of Jose Antonio Burciaga, 1947 to 1996. We are chameleons, we become chameleon. Jose Antonio Burciaga. We are space between the black-orange blur of a million monarchs under 2-generation migration south to Fercran, Michoacan, where tree trunks will sprout feathers, a forest of paper-thin wings. Our Mexican cocoon and the membranes de la Madre Tierra say we are reborn San Juan Papalotes, mariposas negras y anaranjadas, in whose sweep the dead whisper. We are between the flicker of a chameleon's tail that turns his desert blue backbone to jade or pink sand. The snakeskin fraternal twins of solstice and equinox. The ashen dawn, silvering dust, la oración as it leaves the lips. The tug from sleep, the glide into dreams, that husk out mestizo memory. We are one life passing through the prism of all others, gathering color and song, simplasuchi and drum, to leave a rhythm scattered on the wind, dust tinting the tips of fingers as we slip into our new lights.
Next up is Leslie Martinez, 11th grader.
Lucinda Matlock by Edgar Lee Masters. I went to the dances at Chandlerville and played Snap Out at Winchester. One time, we changed partners driving home in the moonlight of middle June. And then I found Davis. We were married and lived together for 70 years, enjoying, working, raising the 12 children, 8 of whom we lost ere I had reached the age of 60. I spun, I wove, I kept the house, I nursed the sick, I made the garden, and for holiday rambled over the fields where sang the larks, and by Spoon River, gathering many a shell and many a flower and medicinal weed, shouting to the wooded hills, singing to the green valleys. At 96, I had lived enough, that is all, and passed to a sweet repose. What is this I hear of sorrow and weariness, anger, discontent, and drooping hopes? Degenerate sons and daughters, life is too strong for you. It takes life to love life.
Tenth grader Taj Morales is our next contestant.
In Praise of Pain by Heather McHugh. A brilliance takes up residence in flaws. A brilliance all the unchipped faces of design refuse. The wine collects its starlets at a lip's fault, sunlight where the nicked glass angles, and affection where the eye is least correctable, where arrows of unquivered light are lodged, where someone else's eyes have come to be concerned. For beauty's sake, assault and drive and burn the devil from the simply perfect sun. Demand a birthmark on the skin of love, a tremble in the touch. In come a cry, and let the silverware of nights be flecked. The moon popped to distribute more or less indwelling alloys of its dim and shine, by nip and tuck, by chance's dance of laws. The brightness, drawn and quartered on a sheet, the moment cracked upon a bed, will last as if you soldered them with moon and flux, and break the bottle of the eye to see what lights are spun of accident and glass.
The next competitor is Ariana Cruz, 12th grade.
Spring by William Shakespeare. When daisies pied and violets blew and lady smocks all silver white and cuckoo buds of yellow hue do paint the meadows with delight. The cuckoo then on every tree mocks married men, for thus sings he, cuckoo, 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 oh word of fear, unpleasing to a married ear. When shepherds pipe on oaten straws and merry larks are plowmen's clocks, when turtles tread and rooks and daws and maidens bleach their summer smocks, the cuckoo then on every tree mocks married men, for thus sings he, cuckoo, 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 oh word of fear, unpleasing to a married ear.
Twelfth grader Jonathan Zabala will perform next.
Black Boys Play the Classics by Toy Derricott. The most popular act in Penn Station is the three black kids in ratty sneakers and t-shirts playing two violins and a cello. Bronx. White men in business suits have already dug into their pockets
as they pass by and toss in $1 or two without stopping. Brown men in work-soiled khakis stand with their mouths open, arms crossed on their bellies, as if they themselves have always wanted to attempt those bars. One white boy, 3, sits cross-legged in front of his idols in ecstasy. Their slick, dark faces, their thin, wiry arms, who must begin to look like angels. Why does this trembling pull us? A, beneath the surface we are one. B, amazing. I did not think that they could speak this tongue.
Our next performer is 9th grader Devante Diaz.
Hedgehog by Paul Muldoon. The snail moves like a hovercraft, held up by a rubber cushion of itself, sharing its secret with the hedgehog. The hedgehog shares its secret with no one. We say, "Hedgehog, come out of yourself and we will love you. We mean no harm. We only want to listen to what you have to say. We want your answers to our questions." The hedgehog gives nothing away. Keeping itself to itself, we wonder what a hedgehog has to hide, why it so distrusts. We forget the God under this crown of thorns. We forget that never again will a God trust in the world.
Tenth grader Dalton Boyle is our next reciter.
The Way It Sometimes Is by Henry Taylor. At times, it's like watching a face you've just met, trying to decide who it reminds you of. No one, surely, whom you've ever hated or loved. But yes, somebody. Somebody. You watch the face as it turns and nods, showing you at certain angles a curve of the lip or a lift of the eyebrow that's exactly right. But still, the lost face eludes you. Now this face is talking, and you hear a sound in the voice. The accent on certain words. Yes, a phrase. You barely recall sitting outside by a pool or a campfire, remarking a peculiar recurring expression. 2 syllables, wasn't it? Doorknob, bathroom, Shawcross. What the hell kind of word is Shawcross? A name, not the right one. A couple of syllables that could possibly be a little like something you may once have heard. So the talk drifts, and you drift, sneaking glances, pounding your brain. Days later, a face occurs to you. And yes, there is a resemblance. That odd word, though, or phrase, is gone. It must have been somebody else. Yes, it's like that. At times. Something is, maybe. And there are some days when you can almost say what it is.
Our next performer is Eddie Candelaria, 12th grade.
Finale by Pablo Neruda. Mathilde. Years or days sleeping, feverish here or there, gazing off. Twisting my spine, bleeding true blood. Perhaps I awaken or am lost sleeping. Hospital beds, foreign windows, white uniforms of the silent walkers, the clumsiness of feet. And then these journeys and my sea of renewal. Your head on the pillow, your hands floating in the light, in my light, over my earth. It was beautiful to live when you lived. The world is bluer, and of the earth at night when I sleep enormous within your small hands.
Aaron Preston, 12th grade, is next.
Leda in the Swan by William Butler Yeats. A sudden blow. The great wings beating still above the staggering girl. Her thighs caressed by the dark webs. Her nape caught in his bill. He holds her helpless breast upon his breast. How can those terrified, vague fingers push the feathered glory from her loosening thighs? And how can body laid in that white rush but feel the strange heart beating where it lies? A shudder in the loins engenders there the broken wall, the burning roof and tower, and Agamemnon dead. Being so caught up, so mastered by the brute blood of the air, Did she put on his knowledge with his power before the indifferent beak could let her drop?
Emily Franklin, 9th grade, will perform next.
The City of Sleep by Rudyard Kipling. Over the edge of the purple down, where single lamplight gleams, know ye the road to the merciful town that is hard by the sea of dreams, where the poor may lay their wrongs away, and the sick may forget to weep? But we, pity us, oh, pity us, we wakeful, ah, pity us. We must go back with Policeman Day, back from the City of Sleep. Weary they turn from scroll and crown, fetter and prayer and plow. They that go up to her merciful town, for her gates are closing now. It is their right in the baths of night, body and soul to steep, but we, pity us, ah, pity us, we wakeful, oh, pity us. We must go back with Policeman Day, back from the City of Sleep. Over the edge of the purple down, ere the tender dreams begin, look, we may look at a merciful town, but we may not enter in. Outcast all from her guarded wall, back to our watch we creep, we. Pity us, ah, pity us, we wakeful, ah, pity us. We that go back with Policeman Day, back from the City of Sleep.
The Nilsa Metz 10th grader will be our next performer.
Sweetness by Stephen Dunn. Just when it had seemed that I could not bear one more friend waking with a tumor, one more maniac with a perfect reason, often a sweetness has come and changed nothing in the world except the way I stumbled through it. For a while lost in the ignorance of loving someone or something, the world shrunk to a mouth size, a hand size, but never seeming small. I acknowledge that there is no sweetness that doesn't leave a stain, no sweetness that's ever sufficiently sweet. Tonight a friend called to say that his lover was killed in the car he was driving. His voice was low and guttural. He repeated what he needed to repeat, and I repeated the 1 or 2 words that we have for such grief until we were speaking only in tones. Often a sweetness comes as if on a loan, stays just long enough to make sense of what it means to be alive, and then returns to its dark source. As for me, I don't care where it's been or what bitter road it's traveled to come so far, to taste so good.
Thank you. Now we will have a brief intermission while the scores are tabulated. We have a presentation of the history of poetry out loud. After, we'd like to have you help yourself to some refreshments down that corridor. Thank you.
The Emperor of Ice Cream by Wallace Stevens. Call the roller of big cigars, the muscular one, and bid him whip in kitchen cups concupiscent curds. Let the wenches dawdle in such dress as they are used to wear, and let the boys bring flowers in last month's newspapers. Let B be finale of scene. The only emperor is the Emperor of Ice Cream. Take from the dresser of deal, lacking the 3 glass knobs, that sheet on which she embroidered fantails once, and spread it so as to cover her face. If her horny feet protrude, they come to show how cold she is, and dumb. Let the lamp affix its beam. The only emperor is the Emperor of Ice Cream.
Our next reciter will be Karen Munoz.
Love Song by Dorothy Parker. My own dear love, he is strong and bold, and he cares not what comes after. His words ring sweet as a chime of gold, and his eyes are lit with laughter. He is jubilant as a flag unfurled. Oh, a girl, she'd not forget him. My own dear love, he is all my world, and I wish I've never met him. My love, he's mad, and my love, he's fleet, and a wild young wood thing bore him. The ways are fair to his roaming feet, and the skies are sunlit for him. As sharply sweet to my heart he seems as the fragrance of acacia. My own dear love, he is all my dreams, and I wish he were in Asia. My love runs by like a day in June, and he makes no friends of sorrows. He'll tread his galloping brigadoon in the pathway of the morrows. He'll live his days where the sunbeams start, nor could storm or wind uproot him. My own dear love, he is all my heart, and I wish somebody shoot him.
Eric Estachio is next.
Testimonial by Rita Dove. Back when the earth was new, and heaven just a whisper. Back when the names of things hadn't had time to stick. Back when the smallest breezes melted summer into autumn. When the poplars quivered sweetly in rank and file. The world called, and I answered. Each glance ignited to a gaze. I caught my breath and called that life. Swooned between spoonfuls of lemon sorbet. I was pirouette and flourish. I was filigree and flame. How could I count my blessings when I didn't know their names? Back when everything was still to come, luck leaked out everywhere. I gave my promise to the world, and the world followed me here.
Jimmy Ortiz will recite next.
Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from soul to crown, clean-favored and imperially slim. And he was always quietly arrayed, and he was always human when he talked, but still he fluttered pulses when he said, "Good morning," and he glittered when he walked. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king, and admirably schooled in every grace. In fine, we thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. So on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head.
Our next reciter is Janeth Paradis.
Pity the Beautiful by Dana Giowa. Pity the beautiful, the dolls and the dishes, the babes with big daddies granting their wishes. Pity the pretty boys, the hunks and Apollos, the golden lad whom success always follows. The hotties, the knockouts, the 10s out of 10, the drop-dead gorgeous, the great leading men. Pity the faded, the bloated, the blousy, the Ponchodonis whose luck's gone lousy. Pity the gods, no longer divine. Pity the night, the stars lose their shine.
Leslie Martinez is next.
El Olvido by Judith Ortiz Coffer. It is a dangerous thing to forget the climate of your birthplace, to choke out the voices of dead relatives when in dreams they call you by your secret name. It is dangerous to spurn the clothes you were born to wear for the sake of fashion, dangerous to use weapons and sharp instruments you are not familiar with. Dangerous to disdain the plaster saints before which your mother kneels, praying with embarrassing fervor that you survive in the place you have chosen to live. A bare, cold room with no pictures on the walls. A forgetting place where she fears you will die of loneliness and exposure. Jesús, María y José, she says, el olvido is a dangerous thing.
The next performer is Taj Morales.
Numbers by Mary Cornish. I like the generosity of numbers. The way, for example, they're willing to count anything or anyone. 2 pickles, 1 door to the room, 8 dancers dressed as swans. I like the domesticity of addition. Add 2 cups of milk and stir. The sense of plenty. 6 plums on the ground, 3 more falling from the tree. And multiplication school of fish times fish, whose silver bodies breathe beneath the shadow of a boat. Even subtraction is never lost, just addition somewhere else. 5 sparrows, take away 2, the 2 in someone else's garden now. There's an amplitude to long division. As it opens Chinese takeout box by paper box, inside every folded cookie, a new fortune. And I never fail to be surprised by the gift of an odd remainder, footloose at the end. 47 divided by 11 equals 4, with 3 remaining. 3 boys beyond their mother's call, 2 Italians off to the sea. 1 sock that isn't anywhere you look.
Ariana Cruz is our next performer.
The Way It Sometimes Is by Henry Taylor. At times, it is like watching a face you've just met, trying to decide who it reminds you of. No one, surely, whom you ever hated or loved. But yes, somebody. Somebody. You watch the face as it turns and nods, showing you at certain angles a curve of the lips, the lift of the eyebrow that is exactly right. and still the lost face eludes you. Now this face is talking, and you hear a sound in the voice. The accent on certain words. Yes, a phrase you barely recall sitting outside by a pool or a campfire, remarking a peculiar, recurring expression. 2 syllables. Wasn't it doorknob, bathroom, Shawcross? What the hell kind of word is Shawcross? A name, not the right one. A couple syllables that could possibly be a little like something you may have once heard. So the talk drifts, and you drift, sneaking glances, pounding your brain. Days later, a face occurs to you. And yes, there is a resemblance. That odd word, though, or phrase is gone. It must have been somebody else. Yes, it's like that at times. Something is, maybe, and there are days when you can almost say what it is.
The next presenter is Jonathan Zabala.
The Mower by Philip Larkin. The mower stalled twice. Kneeling, I found a hedgehog jammed up against the blades, killed. It had been in the long grass. I had seen it before and even fed it once. Now I had mauled its unobtrusive world unmendably. Burial was no help. Next morning, I got up, and it did not. The first day after a death, the new absence is always the same. We should be careful of each other. We should be kind while there is still time.
Our final presenter for this evening is Aaron Preston.
No Moon Floods the Memory of That Night by Etheridge Knight. No moon floods the memory of that night. Only the rain I remember. The cold rain against star faces and mixing with your tears. Only the rain I remember. The cold rain. And your mouth, soft and warm. No moon, no stars, no jagged pane of lightning, only my impotent tongue and the red rage within my brain, knowing that the chilling rain was our forever, even as I tried to explain, a revolutionary is a doomed man with no certainties but love and history. But our children must grow up with certainties, and they will make the revolution. By example, we must show the way so plain that our children can go neither right nor left, but straight to freedom. No. You said, and you left. No moon floods the memory of that night. Only the rain I remember. The cold rain and praying that, like the rain returns to the sky, you would return to me again.
This concludes the second round of competition, and now we will await the judges' tallying. This is the exciting part. While the computer is doing its math thing, I'd like to have all the students who participate please return to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to announce that our representative to the regional competition for Poetry Out Loud 2015 will be Aaron Preston. Our first runner-up, and certainly he put up a formidable opposition here, to use the sports metaphor, is Jimmy Ortiz. And now I'd like to present a certificate to each of the participants. Please come up when I call your name. Isaac Colick. Stephanie Sanchez. Freddie Ramirez. Jonathan Garcia. Karen Munoz. Eric Estacio. Jimmy Ortiz. It's wonderful. Janeth Paradis. Leslie Martinez. Taj Morales. Love that number's call. Ariana Cruz. Jonathan Zabala. Devante Diaz. Dalton Boyle. Eddie Candelaria. Aaron Preston. Emily Franklin. Danilza Metz. These young folks represent winners from all the classroom and school competitions. They did an absolutely marvelous job. Definitely Poetry Out Loud rock stars. Please, another round of applause. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you for participating. 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, we'll see you again next year. And remember to memorize some bit of verse of truth or beauty. It may do you a turn in life. Good night.